they had on TV. It was Godzilla fighting Mechagodzilla.
Love that one.
So good.
There's a couple different ones. Like, which one was it? Because it's like there was one that was like in the 70s, and then they did a sequel like immediately after that one. Like, so there was one in like 75, and then there was one in like 77, and then that was like the last of like the original wave of Godzilla movies. And then in like either like the late 90s or early 2000s, they did like a Mechagodzilla.
This one had there was a bad guy in like a cave. We'll have to do a Godzilla episode.
Oh yeah, Godzilla. Yeah, the sequel starts with a recap of this one, but it's like a really good recap. Like, it's real stylish. Like a lot of these Godzilla movies have like a recap of but like it was really stylish. Like, they cut it real and actually, like, if you watch the original and then watch the like recap, like the recap is so much cooler. Like, it's all highlights.
I love a good recap.
Yeah.
I can't get enough. They need to do more of those. Like, in a movie, they should just do a recap for something that never existed.
Oh yeah, no, I'm all about that too. I do that in my comics. Yeah. Hi, and welcome to Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli. You can support my Patreon on patreon.com. Just search my name, Tom Scioli, on patreon.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show and on Instagram at Total_Recall_show. We talked about Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
Got us on like a Ray Harryhausen tangent. So then we went back to like the other end of like the Ray Harryhausen spectrum, where it's like, okay, Clash of the Titans was like his last one, and then we're doing the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which is kind of like, it wasn't his first movie, but it was kind of like the first in this like arc of like, you know, movies where he's in color, he's the dominant force. It's like, you know, mythology or folklore or, you know, whatever, you know, adventure with like big monsters and heroes fighting them.
Monsters in this are so awesome.
Really, like iconic monsters, really influential. Like, this is, I think this movie's like 1956, 57.
Yeah, 58, I think.
58, okay. So, and it's like if you read comics and stuff, like comics from like the 60s and stuff, that Cyclops shows up all the time, you know?
Yeah, the Cyclops looks amazing. The only reason I looked up that date was because I was like, the lead, I thought he had like West Side Story hair.
Right, yeah.
Like, he just like,
yeah, it's very 50s. It's very 50s. Yeah, it is like yeah, he was you know, part of like whatever Happy Days is trying to reference, you know. It's got the Fonzie hair. Yeah, a lot of you see these monsters continuously getting impaled.
A lot of impalations.
But yeah, like, I mean, what a great formula! Like, just this formula, because it's like you had monster movies and stuff, but then it's like you have monsters that are getting fought by like a hero and his like little gang, you know?
It's so awesome, and you see like their little like projectiles, they go up into it, and it's awesome. Like, the Cyclops looks incredible.
I like the liberties that are taken with the source material. I mean, first of all, like, it's the story of Sinbad, who is, you know, a character from like the 1001 Nights.
Yeah,
he's a character from that. Like, I'm not sure like what the ins and outs are, like whether whether the character of Sinbad is based on some historical figure, or whether he originated in the 1001 Nights, or, you know, I'm not like as well versed in that, but it's like, you know, Harryhausen, like, they're taking elements from wherever they can grab. So it's like, you have like the Cyclops from the Odyssey, you know, where it's like they're getting away in their boat, and then the Cyclops throws a rock at them, and it makes the ship capsize, and they have to, you know, sneak out. And so it's like, you know, kind of taking those elements. But I really love the liberties that they take. I like the liberties they take with the design. So like, Harryhausen designs this character that seems like a, you know, legit mythological creature, but then it's like, oh no, it's like a Cyclops with a unicorn horn and with like goat's feet, like a furry kind of like hand, or like a satyr. But yeah, you have the 1001 Nights stuff. So you have, you know, genie in a lamp. You have scimitars.
He's the magician.
Yeah, he seems like Otto Preminger or something.
Sakura.
Yeah, Sakura, like there's like a company that makes really nice pens.
Sakura. They're like, we love the character. He's the magician. Yeah, great look. Like throughout the movie, I can really feel the Indiana Jones, like Temple of Doom's like set design and costuming and stuff. They there's some characters that are almost like one-to-one in their like...
Well, yeah, so Sakura, you're saying, is like Mola Ram.
Mola Ram, yeah. Kind of. And then like, just even the lighting when they're in the caves later, and the thuggy guards and stuff, like just, and the gears. It really, Temple of Doom is like... And there's also a swing. Whenever they swing, that's like from the Luke and Leia swing is like another one-for-one.
Now, Luke and Leia swinging across on a rope. Like, the sort of swinging across on a rope is like this classic, adventure thing, classic like serial thing. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. But you're right. Like, there's something about the swing in this that feels so direct. Like, two of them together, swinging it, like, oh, what happened to the,
Even how they're holding on to each other, and just the shot placement, I mean... You picking that up? Like,
that was my thought too. Yeah, and the this movie was hugely influential to Star Wars. Like, like the Dennis Muren and all those guys. Like, they talk about how influenced they were by this particular movie. So like George Lucas definitely saw this, and again, and there are previous. Movies like sort of set in this milieu like that predate this, that are older than this and have a lot of the same like kind of like adventure elements and stuff. But yeah, this is like this is like kind of like a real crystallization.
And like he's like, cover your heart, Sinbad.
I really like and Sinbad does have kind of like an Indiana Jones thing going for him. Like Sakura the Wizard, I really like that trope of like where you are going on an adventure and there's a guy in your group that's like the like the mole, or he's like the bad guy, like he's part of your crew but he's secretly like a saboteur or whatever. In like Fantastic Voyage, like I don't know if it was like maybe like a Cold War thing where it's like you gotta have like you're going on your adventure and then you have a guy who's like the saboteur, who's like sort of symbolically like a Soviet agent who's like infiltrated your group and is gonna like point you in all the wrong directions. But I love it.
Me too.
He's great in this, and it just gives like a little like jolt to the narrative. And like imagine like Star Wars or something, if like they're traveling around in the Millennium Falcon and like Darth Vader's in there with them, and he's like, go there, do this, and like just imagine the tension, and that you get to have your heroes spending a lot of screen time together with the villain. Like if you can figure out a way to make that work, it is kind of great.
What we know now, it's like Darth Vader just in his costume. He's in the Falcon. He's like, see that big thing over there? Looks like a star. That's a good thing. We want that. We want more of that.
He like think about like Yoda, how like he shows up and like it's he's not telling you who he is. Like imagine like they meet Darth Vader and he's like, oh, let me help you.
allow me to help you with this suitcase. Let me carry
you get to the Alderaan. And then he's like, they're going to take me to the hidden rebel base, Moff Tarkin. Listen.
Are you done in there? He's in like the bathroom. They're like, I'm be a second. He's like 1 minute. We've got them right where we want them.
The mythical Darth Vader's bathroom, as referenced in the pilot episode of Knight Rider.
What? Wait, what?
Well, because in the first episode of Knight Rider, when Michael Knight gets inside of Kit, he's like, this looks like Darth Vader's bathroom.
Oh my god!
And so it's like, oh, Darth Vader's bathroom, what's that like? It's an interesting image. It's an interesting choice.
The bathroom inside the Millennium Falcon looks like a bathroom on a commercial airliner. He's like,
it's like real tight. And when you flush, it like goes into vacuum of space.
He's like, I've got them right where we want them. It's C-3PO pounding on the door.
So that wizard, he's there, like kind of pointing them, like sabotaging, but then pointing them the way that they're supposed to go on the adventure, thinking that at some point he's going to lead them to their doom. And then, when they like realize that he's the bad guy, then you get like this great fight. You're back in his castle, and it is this beautiful kind of like when they made this movie, people weren't like thinking or talking about like the hero's journey or whatever. Like Joseph Campbell's stuff might have not even been published yet, or but it wasn't like people were writing screenplays a lot more just from like instinct and from just sort of like classical knowledge and things like. But it wasn't like this carefully plotted out hero's journey. But this really it's like it starts off in this in this sort of magical land of danger where things are happening, and then they come back home, and then they got to go. There's a plague on the land, or like a projection of a plague. And then they got to go back where it all like it's nice. It's a nice kind of loop. Yeah.
And whenever their Sakura is, I like how he's like hired to do like the magic for like the court.
Yes, he's like parlor tricks. Like he's this like powerful dark wizard, and like he's hired as like the party clown.
They're like we couldn't. They're like we booked Chris Angel, the mind freak, but he canceled. So I guess we're stuck with Sakura the magician.
I love the costumes. I like the sort of chainmail dragon stuff on Sakura's sleeves, and I guess referencing that like he's got a dragon tied up at home that we're gonna meet. Oh, and the giant
crossbow.
This giant crossbow, and like the drawing of it. Like these are movies like made for kids' imaginations, where like you're gonna sit down and you're gonna draw your giant crossbow, and you're gonna have your Cyclops and your dragon and your guys in boats.
There was what was that creature, like the bird? They had that huge egg. I can't remember what that thing was called.
It's called the Roc, R-O-C, and like it's like this giant bird that's like from mythology or whatever. But then like again, like the liberties that Harryhausen takes, and like the way he just makes everything a little better. It's like a giant bird isn't enough; it has to be a giant two-headed bird.
That like then they stab it. They have their like spears and stuff, and then it grabs Sinbad and picks him up.
And when they stab it, it's like you feel really bad for it because it is like this little baby chick.
Yeah,
it's giant, but it's like this. It's got the fuzz. Yeah, the yellow fuzz, and they stab it, and then they like eat the bird, and then that bad news is coming. That like the mama bird is gonna come. And
you said it's the Roc. They're like we're going to see the Roc. They get up, they climb up the mountain, and he's like, can you smell what the Roc is cooking? He gives Sinbad the people's elbow.
How great is this like snake woman magic trick? They take the lady who I don't know is like the lady in waiting or what, like the attendant to the princess, and then they put her in a box with a snake,
serpent, yeah,
and then she comes out and she's like this snake
so
woman.
Cool, I love it. She's like blue and has like 4 multiple arms.
Yeah, and it is like it's like kind of like full circle with this, and then Medusa in Clash of the Titans.
Yes.
And you see how much his technique has evolved too, because as cool as the effect is in here, it's kind of crude, and like the crudeness is like part of the charm, but it doesn't have like the subtlety, it doesn't have the lighting, and then you see like where he is, a couple decades later.
My favorite of all the monsters in here, my favorite stop motion happening is when Sakura at the very end calls that skeleton down.
Yes.
He summons the skeleton, and I'm like, this is like mana. Like I'm like, I cannot get enough. It looks amazing, and I think I saw that it was like that was like his Jason the Argonauts like the prototype.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, you liked the skeleton from Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Wait till you see this army of skeletons in Jason and the Argonauts, and that's like, again, like we talked about in the Clash of the Titans episode, where like they would pitch these movies with like a series of like cool drawings that Harryhausen would do of like 7 key moments or whatever, and one of them is like Sinbad going up this spiral staircase, sword fighting with a skeleton. So that's one of the things that's so
awesome.
And when we talk about like the connection between this stuff and Star Wars, you think about it, like that's like how George Lucas sold Star Wars. He had a bunch of these like Ralph McQuarrie drawings of like key elements that like really helped sell the project to people who were like, what the fuck is this? And then it's like, well, here's a picture, and it's like, oh, okay.
Those Ralph, and no wonder they bought it. Like those Ralph McQuarrie drawings, like I can't get enough of them.
Yeah, they're like a work of art in themselves, and they are kind of like these relics, just like the Harryhausen ones. The Snake Woman, when she's dancing, like you have the stop motion Snake Woman, and then they would go to these like close ups of like just her head, like and it's freaky.
Yeah.
And they must have cast the actress before he created the model, because it does like it does look like her, like unless there's like some prosthetics or because she's got like a very distinctive nose, so maybe he created the model and then they found an actress and stuck like a prosthetic nose on her or something. But it is like it's really good.
And then with that skeleton fight, they I still don't know how like they got the lighting. It looks perfect. Like
how beautiful is that lighting? Like it's the colors, like the cool, warm contrasts, and then the depth. Like it's really fun. Look like kind of picking apart how the thing's made, because you'll have this like cool like foreground that's obviously like this thing that's built, and then you'll have like the monster moving around in a background that is obviously like some kind of projection or overlay or whatever.
That kind of stuff is still like, I still get excited. It's like I don't really know how exactly, and it's like still mysterious to me, which is like
you have a vague sense of how it's done, but
it's like magical.
Yeah, it really does feel like magic. Like it really is like there is like a personal touch. Harryhausen bringing this like very specific skill set that not a lot of people had, and that like maybe nobody has now, but like this very specific personalized skill set to this like collaborative art form, this collaborative commercial art form that is like cinema, and like taking techniques that were kind of like handed down that he apprenticed with like the creator of the effects in King Kong. It's like what happened to this body of knowledge, and did Harryhausen have an apprentice who was going to carry this stuff?
Please, we hope so.
Or was it one of those things of like, nobody cares about this stuff anymore, and then it just died a couple decades before video games would be invented, and it's like such a video game.
It really is.
Where it's like, okay, you got this Cyclops, and you got to throw spears at him, and then like
you beat the boss.
You beat the boss, and then you have like this really cool thing where it's like, it's almost like a puzzle game, like a text adventure or something, where it's like, okay, there's a dragon and he's chained against the wall, and there's a giant wheel, and then it's like he turns the wheel and then it like pulls the chain in, and then he can walk past it, and then he loosens it so that the guy who's following him can't it's like
such a video game. What a great call.
Yeah, and then it's like we're running away from the Cyclops. What do we do? And then it's like you set the dragon free, and then now the Cyclops and the dragon fight each other.
Or like they're trapped in that cage and they have to, Princess Parisa is like miniaturized. They're like, you have to loosen the like the bolt on the cage to get us out of here.
It's kind of this cool supernatural element, and you have this like spell that's put on the princess that has a cool visual to it, like her shrinking down, like an easily executed special effect. But then it's also like you're not aware that the wizard who's with you through this whole adventure is secretly the one who caused it. And then it also like kind of like it allows the princess to like go on the adventure with everybody, but also keep her kind of like undetected and out of harm's way, but then also vulnerable, because she's in this thing. But then like she can be, it's kind of like, okay, so we're going on this adventure, and we're bringing the villain with us, and we're bringing the princess with us, who's usually like off in a castle and needs to be rescued. Like the castle she needs to be rescued from is this like little bit of luggage.
I'm thinking the whole time like I'm like, she's in good shape in that thing, because like they defeat the Rock. They're like roasting that big leg, and then they're like, they made their little camp for the night. And I'm like, oh boy, they're just like laying out in the elements on the rocks. And she has at least she had like her nice little her
cozy, like a little piece of home.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to ask Sakura to miniaturize me.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Phantom Zone in Superman, where it's like it's like a punishment, but they're safe in the Phantom Zone, and then you break the Phantom Zone open, and then they come out, they're like the only survivors other than Superman. And also, like, you could just break off a little morsel of that roast rock. She could have like a huge meal.
Sakura keeps trying to get the lamp. I like you mentioned too about him like being the mole, going back and forth when he's like, I can hold the lamp, and he's like, Sakura, I don't trust you.
Yeah, he knows his subconscious knows what his conscious mind doesn't know. His subconscious knows that Sakura is no good, but his conscious mind hasn't caught up. But he's kind of like, yeah, there's something going on here. I'm not going to let you hold the lamp. And especially as the story goes on, he gets like more and more suspicious. He's not ready to like call him out just yet. I wonder like this whole thing of like Sinbad and then like the princess is real tiny and stuff. Like I wonder if like Harryhausen's doing a little like auto bio here of like how he's got this like world of like little miniatures that he is kind of involved in and stuff. And she's kind of like standing in for that.
That's awesome. I just love these like tactile old school like just tricks.
Yeah, like I love that this movie is made in the 50s. Like it kind of like there's like this weird like soft focus that's going on, and then you got those like kind of like Technicolor colors.
Oh yeah.
That are like just real bright and kind of like unnatural, but like it's
still
just
popping.
Yeah, it's like because like Harryhausen's work, it moves through the decades. It's 50s, 60s, 70s, and then 80s, and those looks do reflect the times, and it's like nice. It's nice seeing, okay, here's a 50s one, and then we're going to see a 60s one, and then like you really see the change like in the 70s. Like, okay, here's a 70s one, and then the 80s, it's like, it's like a completely different aesthetic from this.
You're right. This is like I'm glad this story is like told through this filter.
Yeah. And it's like you can't do it like imagine if they were able to make all their movies in the 50s, but you can't. Like you're moving in time, as your work is.
They're like, we can only use equipment that was available during the 50s.
Well, because you see that from time to time. Somebody who's like really in love with a particular era, and then they kind of go out of their way to like to mimic.
They're like, we can't use any lights that weren't available.
Yeah, like I don't know how you would make a movie look like this. Like, I mean, I guess like digitally, you could maybe like fake the color saturations and stuff, and then maybe use like a really shitty camera to get like the soft focus.
Yeah, it's like we need the oldest Kodak. We need the oldest stock you have.
I was watching the second Godzilla movie. There's Godzilla versus Anguirus. It was like you had Godzilla, and then this was the one immediately after that. And those are the two ones that are in black and white, and then I think Godzilla versus Mothra is like the next one, and King Kong versus Godzilla is the next one, and that's in color, and then they're in color from then on. Like in the second one, there's a scene where like they're all watching footage of Godzilla's rampage, so it's all scenes from the previous movie, but they're like watching it on a projector, and so you have this like extra layer of like scratch, and they're probably looking at like the work print of the first Godzilla, but it just looks so amazing, like just seeing like the first Godzilla movie through this like extra filter of like scratched up,
that's so
and like flashing strobe effect.
I can't get enough. They're like, all right, you can make a slasher movie. I'm like, I'm making it, but I'm only using the cameras available in the 80s. I'm like, only lights available in the 80s.
Yeah, Sinbad, it's like Conan or something, where like every scene he's in like a completely different costume that's like super cool.
I love the colors of his pants.
Yeah, that's another, like these 50s movies, like with Technicolor, it's like, we got this new thing called Technicolor, and we're going to get our money's worth out. Like, we are going to give you the bluest blues and the reddest reds. And like, yeah, you just don't see people being as bold with color as much.
And we talked about his haircut. They're like, he's like, when you're a jet, you're from your first cigarette.
And you have like, I mean, how great are giant props? So you got like the giant arrow,
the giant leg from The Rock.
Yeah.
I saw it mentioned because this is a Columbia picture that they had access to the Three Stooges sound effect library. So they were like the curling like why I oughta and he's like, hey, you groundhog, and he pulls like his nose hairs out. They had Curly whenever the mutiny or the guys like fight.
Yeah, there's like a mutiny start brewing.
They use the Stooges punches and like the Curly's like yelps. He's like, oh, wise guy.
Because like in I Dream of Genie, they have these scenes where like you see what's like inside the bottle that she's inside, and it's very plush and a lot of cushions and stuff, and it's kind of like the little box that the princess is in. But then we have like some direct I Dream of Genie stuff where she like climbs into the lamp because she's miniature now, so she climbs into the lamp and then she can like talk directly to the genie. When Kerwin Matthews has the lamp, when he's like rubbing the lamp. He's like hunched over, and then they're like, "Oh, he's just over there rubbing his lamp." Well, I mean, it didn't take Christina Aguilera to point out the symbolism that's going on in like the rubbing the lamp, and wait for this like white wispy smoke to come out, and he's on the cliff. He's like rubbing it, but he's like hunched over, and, like facing away from they're all like eating the Roc's food around the fire. They're like. Where's Sinbad? He's like, oh, he's over there rubbing his lamp again. In the 50s, you could, like the Hays Code or whatever, you couldn't make a movie that directly references this stuff, so you need like symbolism. And like Sinbad, he's like very sweaty in this movie. Yeah, because I counted, he like was rubbing his lamp like 6 or 7 times throughout the course. Oh yeah, here's... and then there's like, the moments where like they're rubbing the lamp and then nothing's happening. And it's like a race against the clock, and it's like, he's almost here. We got. I love when like they speed up for a fight. That was one of the things in this like Godzilla versus Anguirus. It's only the second Godzilla movie, and it's not the original director. It was like Honda is the original director, and he had like just wrapped up Godzilla, and like immediately they started Godzilla 2, and so they got another director. I think his last name was Oda, but they got another director to direct it. Made kind of the rookie mistake of when Godzilla and Anguirus are fighting each other, they speed it up. So it's like you can picture, and it's like you're supposed to do the opposite. You're supposed to slow it down so they seem like very big and mythic and impressive and ponderous, but they speed it so it's like it turns into like the Stooges. The Three Stooges like fighting pace. Because it's like nobody wants a slow fight scene. It's got to be fast. Undercranking. We just watched. We're talking about rubbing the lamp, and undercranking, and overcranking. When the rubbing the lamp scene, they're like, I guess they got it on the first take, but they're like, maybe they're like, hey, Kerwin, can you give us like one more of that? It's like, you're not rubbing it. You're rubbing that lamp weird. The way you're rubbing that lamp out is creeping. The way you're rubbing that lamp is creeping everybody out. Yeah, the crew. The crew is taking like a work action. They're taking they're invoking their work stoppage rights because of the way you're rubbing the lamp. Whenever they're on the cliff, when they're fighting the Roc, he needs to like do another like take of the lamp rubbing. He was like, his eyes were like crossed in the shot. I love like a pirate crew costuming, and it's like this crew, it's like, nobody's costumed the exact same way. They're all like a different like bandana or a different tear or shoulder or whatever, and different color combinations. It's just it's a lost art, really. The costumes in this are great, and we were talking before about like Temple of Doom, like Sakura, Mola Ram is kind of like his outfit, even with like the black flowing kind of like cloak, and the bald head. We had mentioned genies and Sinbad. That's the little Mandela elephant in the room. Yes, that the comedian Sinbad starred as a genie in the movie Shazam. Except he didn't. That movie doesn't exist, but like a lot of people believe that it does exist. And that Sinbad has even, referenced that. I wonder what Sinbad thinks of these movies. Like was that just a nickname he got, or was he like really like? I know like Sinbad is like a nerd. Like I'm a fan of like. Yeah, me too. He might be my favorite comedian. He's amazing. We love him in Jingle All the Way, House Guest. He was on Another World. Yeah, I mean he's probably like not the first, but he was among the first like stand-up comedians that I remember seeing. Like
me too.
He was pretty huge, you know.
See him when you're little, huge, big character, you know, physically big.
yeah, like definitely, like and dressed in like outrageous fashion,
awesome,
and has like this like outrageous act, you know, like a very loud act. The thing from his stand-up that always stuck with me was like he had this routine about like McDonald's has like these milkshakes that are like insanely thick. It's basically like a cup of soft serve, but then they give you this like super thin like coffee stirrer straw to drink it with. You're like, and he's like talking about like, he's like, oh, I almost got a taste, like trying to just get a little, and like I could sort like it was so right on the money, and I could so relate. And it was not too long after that, McDonald's started giving you these like thicker straws for their milkshake. So I wonder if
they listened to Sinbad,
yeah.
Like
because this was on like a prime. This was like he had like a prime time stand-up special. So like it you know.
Yeah, when you think about it, yeah, he's probably one of the first stand-up comics I would see on TV, and yeah, just like the way he looked, is like his like cool outfits and like saw him in Necessary Roughness, the Kathy Ireland Scott Bakula like football film.
But yeah, you can't talk about Sinbad and Genies without referencing
Shazam.
Yeah, this great movie that never existed or existed in another universe that some people used to reside in, and then they teleported into this universe where there is no movie Shazam starring Sinbad.
It's Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, Kazam is the real movie with Shaquille O'Neal about a genie, and then Shazam is the fake movie about a genie. Because I mean, it couldn't have existed because you know, DC Comics would have had a cease and desist if they tried to make a movie called Shazam. There was a genie cartoon called Shazam with an N, but yeah, but you couldn't make a Shazam movie.
Sinbad, you need to make the like. I don't know if you're working on the script, but somebody needs to put that into play, like the Shazam.
Well, they, I mean, he did on like Funny or Die. He, you know, like he's trolling now. He did a thing. So he did like a trailer, or he did like a lost scene from this Shazam.
That's amazing.
But yeah, like I feel like it's only a matter of time before like somebody makes like
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus do the Shazam starring Sinbad.
Or it's like a Highlander scenario where him and Shaquille are, he's like, there could be only one.
I could also, like, maybe this has happened already, but somebody could do a deep fake where they take this movie and just put Sinbad the Comedian into this, either in the Sinbad role or in the Genie role or in both roles.
That's like the greatest thing I've ever heard of.
The Voyage of Sinbad.
It's like Sinbad 2K21.
Sakura's like, do not drink that water under any circumstance. You will die instantly. And then they drink it, and they don't die instantly, but they get like really drunk. It's like the water that's running through there is like wine or whatever. I kept expecting there to be a scene like an Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom kind of scene where they start, and then their eyes start bulging, or they start turning into skeletons and stuff. But
when he told them not to drink it, I was like, they're gonna die. Or
yeah,
like,
this is gonna, okay. Rubbing your hands. Yeah, this is gonna be an awesome. We're gonna see some stop motion, disintegration going on or whatever. And it didn't have. So I don't know if maybe the budget ran out, so they didn't have the money for that one last effect of seeing the guys kind of like turn into skeletons.
Like, also the water was pretty red. I don't think I wouldn't have been drinking that.
Anyway, yeah. I guess that's like how you find out that Sakura is no good or whatever. Like, but I mean, talk about like the opposite of a Chekhov's gun. Like that's such a setup of like something horrible is going to happen, and then to have it like nothing happened, no reference to it ever again.
Yeah, they're just like, have you checked out that wine river?
So I guess it's like he's just Sakura's just such a stinker that he wants to deprive these guys the enjoyment of this like delicious like red wine river that's running through his magical island. Again, like a video game, they get into these situations, and then Sinbad like thinks about ways of like solving the puzzle, and then he has like some clever little idea that solves the puzzle. Like it is like a video game kind of thing before there were video games. And you know, there's that like Prince of Persia video, like the original Prince of Persia, and that doesn't have any like giant Cyclopses or anything. I mean, I never finished the game, so maybe there is. I just never got to it. But like, it does feel like absent those elements, it does feel like it was like, oh, let's make like a Sinbad video game where he's like kind of running around and jumping over stuff. And
I remember seeing it and playing a little bit for like the Super NES.
Yeah, Super NES. That's the one that I played most recently and did not get very far. It's super frustrating. Like when it came out for the Apple II, it's like you'd never seen animation like that before in a video game, and it had like the perfect length and challenge and stuff. But it's like now it's a little too frustrating. Like you're just constantly dying and that.
Do you have it on your SNES Classic?
Yeah, on the SNES Classic. Yeah, the hacked SNES Classic. Oh, and then they find the treasure and they're like super excited about it, and it's a trap. This is like more Odysseus kind of stuff, where it's like he's trying to tell these guys to calm down, and then now they're trapped in the Cyclops cave. And then they kill the Cyclops. Like the Cyclops falls and it dies, and it's pretty still. Like there's no animation going on. There's no it's like this stiff, like rigor mortis has set in, and it's like okay, he's dead. But then the Cyclops shows up later, so I don't know if it's like he was okay after all, or if like this island is like full of Cyclopses.
Maybe it's like another one.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, they don't really make that clear.
That looks so awesome.
Yes, very visceral, and again, like it's got a little bit of the Kraken, release the Kraken DNA in there. Maybe even like built. Maybe the Kraken was even built on the same armature, or like built on top. Like I don't know the ins and outs of his technique, but I could see him like taking some old model and then kind of like building on it.
If you put all that work into it, don't like tear it down completely.
Right? Yeah, build on it and then like massage in some like subtler elements.
I don't know how they do it, like with interacting with like the.
In a pre-digital era too, where it's like, oh, I love this stuff where it's like now he's holding a little stop motion Sinbad,
Yeah.
Like I love it. I love the changing techniques. You talk about Godzilla, and it's like they when they made Godzilla, it's like you're looking at movies that had stop motion, like there's the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Like there were these movies that Ray Harryhausen worked on that had like stop motion, and then when Honda is making Godzilla, this is like a very expensive, very tedious process. We got to figure out like a more like a way to kind of speed it up. So we're just gonna get a guy in a rubber suit, and like man, like what what a freeing like the stuff they do with that guy in the rubber suit. It's like and it's like you can, it's like you're kind of cutting out this like the Ray Harryhausen stuff. It's beautiful. It's so wonderful. It's like an art form of its own. But it's like the Godzilla suit just makes so much more sense.
And then like somebody being in the suit and like going through that process, that's just a whole another art form into itself.
Yeah, it becomes its own art form, and that becomes like a body of knowledge that again is like very personal and very
you can like pass
individual.
that along.
I love them both. I love the Harryhausen technique, and I love the Godzilla. I think they called it like Suitmation.
Oh, that's so awesome! I never heard that term before. That's so sick.
Let's have it all. Let's do it. Combine it. Let's.
It's like we're making a movie. It's gonna have stop motion and Suitmation in it.
And then he's like the Cyclops is like roasting a guy on a spit. Now, like, imagine like Ray Harryhausen's Lord of the Rings,
oh my God.
Or Ray Harryhausen's The Hobbit.
He's like, "Are you ready for the Hobbit slam?"
An unexpected journey to the bathroom. There's that moment where like the genie makes this like force field around, like between the Cyclops and Sinbad's crew, and it's like so then you're seeing the Cyclops like through this force field, and so he's like real blurry and fuzzy, and like I can't imagine like how frustrating that would be for like Ray Harryhausen that he's still doing all the subtle stop motion animation, all this tedious stuff, only to have it kind of like smeared and like blur, and like he can't even, like he could have probably just like phoned it in, just like waved the doll back and forth or whatever.
We're gonna obscure this, Ray, but we still want you to give 110%.
That's another trope where it's like, hey, just because I'm small doesn't mean I can't, you know, save the day. And like, you know, and her being like shrunken down actually makes her like uniquely able to save a situation that you know, no one else with all their size and strength could do. It does kind of remind me of, like, you know, talking about like the influence of this on comics. Like, it does kind of remind me of, like, in early Fantastic Four issues, like how they used the Invisible Girl, where it would be like the Thing and Mr. Fantastic and the Human Torch. They're like the big adventurers, just going, you know, fists flying, doing all the action stuff, and like they kind of almost like forget about the Invisible Girl in the background. But then like the villain forgets too, and then she's able to kind of like sneak in and kind of save the day, but you know, be too timid to like take credit for it and stuff. You know, they're all kind of blustering and shouting her down anyway. So I was kind of wondering how they were going to find that lamp, because it fell into the ocean, and it's like usually like you don't see, like Lord of the Rings or whatever, it gets washed downstream and somebody else gets it.
I think once they're on the mountain, what's his face? Kerwin is gonna have to call upon the genie.
Yeah, and throw the lamp into because they do the Lord of the Rings thing. They do like throw the lamp into the lava and it melts.
Sakura, he's like, there's still a part of the lamp right here, and then he like lowers down into the lava, gives the thumbs up. And that was a cool effect too when they threw the lamp in the lava. It looks, once again, every aspect looks just so cool. And
yeah, real sumptuous. Like you want all these props. You want that. The Cyclops again, like those Clash of the Titans action figures. Like, I mean, how cool would be some Seventh Voyage of Sinbad action figures?
They're throwing those spears, like we were saying.
This where like you have like the evil wizard traveling with them on the journey. Like, I know, like Kirby has like referenced this in like Thor comics, where like in like Tales of Asgard, you know, Thor would be going on some adventure on a boat, and then Loki would be there too, and he would be he'd be the evil magician who's kind of like sabotaging everything. In like Jack Kirby's like and Stan Lee's like Tales of Asgard with Thor, they would like directly reference, it's like Jason and the Argonauts. Like they even like referred to their crew as like the Argonauts and stuff in the comics.
This movie's so influential.
Yeah. Like, how could you not see this and have it change? And these are like the stop motion, and then like, you know, a Cyclops with one horn and hooves and stuff. Like, these are like, it is like dreamlike. It is like collective unconscious, you know, dream imagery and archetypes, you know, that you're just seeing like come to life on the screen at a time when it's like this kind of stuff is like rare. Like you'd have like cartoons back then, and you'd have like, you know, those kind of like bad like 50s alien invasion monster movie kind of stuff that were just like, but then like this is like something else. Yeah, here's Sinbad, you know, being clever and like solving like the problem, solving the puzzle of the game, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna stand at the edge of the cliff and keep shouting to this monster, and it's gonna follow my voice, and then he's gonna fall off the cliff. When they show him, look how dead he looks. Like he's like,
in a bad.
Like Harryhausen's taking the day off. He's like, I'm not gonna make him have a death throw or kind of like or whatever. Like, I'm just gonna set that model down and just like film it.
Little do we know he was a partier, and he actually choked to death on his own vomit. Oh, I love a good cliff climbing.
Yeah.
One of the guys falls off here, and they're like...
Another thing that looks like Temple of Doom. I mean, look at that.
Yes!
That looks like it's like filmed in the same place. You know, they're surprised there's not like crocodiles.
When we were watching The Mandalorian, I kept singing that, like, the theme again.
Mm-hmm.
Da-da-da.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Look out below.
It showed when that guy falls, he does like a Olympic like dive. He goes, they're like,
and the Wilhelm scream, do they do that too?
He was like this, and then like.
I like the way this egg hatches too.
I do too.
That's
what a cool prop. These props, Tom.
Yeah, this giant plaster egg that somebody had to make. Again, this is like another like Jack Kirby thing where it's like there's like a cover to like Challengers of the Unknown, where it's like this egg cracking, like an arm coming out, and it's like it's gotta be like he probably like just saw this movie and
And he had to put it in his comic right away.
Yeah, yeah. Like I like seeing, you know, like the references, like doing like the Jack Kirby book. It's like I kind of like had to immerse myself in like the cultures of those times, like as much as I could. And you do get like this nice idea of like a moment in time, because you do kind of wonder like, oh, you know, how did you know Kirby come up with this or that, or like any creative, but it's like they're swimming in different waters than we are.
Yeah.
That great reveal too.
I love it.
Harryhausen does that, where it's like the one head pops out, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a giant bird, and then the second head pops. Like they don't just both pop out at the same. Like it's like a reveal, and then yeah, that body is very disturbing. Like
It's
if it was
so disturbing.
This Easter peep kind of body.
It says like yeah,
And
peeps on the side of it.
and like it just makes it so like yeah, this monster is, I guess, a little threatening, but it's also kind of, you know, like
It's
cute
cute
and it's kind of pathetic. And so when they kill it, it's like you know they're making a big mistake. Sakura, the evil wizard, he does have a lot of good information, and he is like helpful from time, but that's what makes him so dangerous, is that at any moment you don't, you know, he seems like he's helpful, but then he's gonna at the key moment he's gonna like, you know, stab you in the back.
Yeah, like
he's gonna lead you off a cliff.
when he kills that one guy, pretty he's fighting with like one of the guys and like stabs him with the spear. I was like, damn it, Sakura.
We were rooting for you. He like when you're inside his castle and then you see like kind of his like wizard's lair kind of like room with all his like little tricks and stuff, man,
it's so good. What a great flick.
This like this for a while I did sort of like follow this like roadmap like for my comics and stuff, where it's like, you know, you try to think of like, you know, what your thing's going to be and try to like boil it down to like a couple of key images, like and then you expand and make like this you know, I was very like impressed by this movie when I said, and I felt like this is the formula for like just great adventure stuff. You know, you just have some like super cool looking monsters and little set pieces and a through line, you know, like a to B to C. Man, and it's just fun. Like everything's so like, how fun is it when she like goes sliding down that slide into the lamp? Yeah, the dry ice budget on this scene.
He's like
a little bit of like Willy Wonka.
No one's sorry, we have a limited craft services.
He does the thing like in a Superman episode where like they're shooting at Superman and bullets are just bouncing off, and then they run out of bullets and they just throw the gun. So is he doing the thing where he's like rubbing the lamp, trying to get the magic going, and then he just throws the lamp at the rock? Sakura is kind of looming over the princess. You know, he's all giant, she's tiny, and like you just get this like close up look of like the cool pattern on his boots.
Yeah, there's so much detail.
And that belt, it's kind of the belt that Sinbad's wearing, super good. It's got like all these little like studs on it, like more studs than you would need on a belt. But they make these like cool patterns.
I love it. Like we were saying, like the detail on all the costuming and the props.
Just the way like, you know, Hollywood kind of was back then. You wonder if like, oh, are these costumes, you know, from like, you know, like an old Douglas Fairbanks movie?
Yeah,
or
like
something.
repurposed.
Yeah. Things that have like been in like the vaults, you know, like forever.
They're like, we gotta bust it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how great! It's like a castle, and it's got this cool like kind of like stone face in front, but it's not like you come to the castle and you can see, oh, there's the towers and stuff. It's just this like cave. It's cave, and like the castle's like completely underground. Like it's like this, you know.
I love it.
Interior space. Yeah, so beautiful. Like it's like these like operatic cave spaces. Like look at that with all the color, like all this color that you get in what would, you know, kind of usually be depicted as like this like monochromatic,
like dark.
Yeah, dark and, you know, grays.
When he gets in close in some of these scenes, like the color choice on the lighting, it's like very Temple of Doom, like the wooden like machine in here, like
up the fire from the dragon's breath. Great dragon, man.
Oh, it looks awesome.
Hero's journey kind of stuff, like the magical helper or the magical guardian, and it's like, okay, well, here's a literally magical helper. Here's the genie, and he's going to tell you, you know, what you need to do to solve this particular puzzle.
Then he becomes he's like, you're my cabin boy now.
Yeah.
Then he's like, I think he's skirting child labor laws. He's like,
well, I mean, that genie is like, it's like played by a child, but I mean, it's got to be like what, thousands of years old. And,
yeah, he's the oldest guy in the movie.
It is like, okay, what's his backstory? Was like he a kid who got turned into a genie, and so he's been stuck in that lamp for 1,000 years, and he hasn't aged or whatever, or is he like, does the genie like just, he could like, you know, take whatever form he wants, so he chooses to take this child form because he's like a child at heart or whatever. Like,
there's so much to like.
They need to make like the Genie prequel for just like Aladdin. Like the Genie kind of like tends to steal the show in these stories.
The kid's like doing a Robin Williams. He's like, hey, he's like,
no. What's the state of like the Seventh Voyage of Sin? Like, I mean, I get there had to have been like, you know, some like more recent Sinbad movies. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Look, I love this like this out of focus stuff. It's like they had to use it. Like they had to wait until it came back from the lab, you know. And it's like, okay, we're gonna use it. It's out of focus, but it's all we got to get a scene of him going from here to there, and that's all we got.
I'm 100% on board, Tom.
Yeah, man, I love these spaces where it's like you got like architectural detail, and then you have stalagmites and stalactites kind of woven into it.
Unreal.
Yeah, like again, like Temple of Doom and like you know, these like sort of like Dungeons and Dragons kind of spaces.
Oh, look at
crystal
this
ball
thing.
with like a red crystal ball with a skull in it.
I would love that prop.
Yeah, it's like that crystal ball suspended in these kind of crystals
With a skull inside.
Yeah, skull inside and red smoke. You know, Sinbad, he kind of looks like Bill Bixby. He's Bixbyan.
I'm like, Kerwin, I'm like, I love the little Bixby you got in there.
I like the bad focus. I like that occasionally the character's out of it. Like, for some reason, it lends like a reality or something to things when somebody like steps out of the depth of field. For this shot, they have to have a giant hand in the foreground, and then the princess, you know, in the background. I would love to see, for a human hand in those scenes with the shrunken down princess, if they had like a stop motion, you know, like human hand, or if they had like an actual giant prop hand that like she's interacting with, that's just going like.
They're like Ray Harryhausen had to do Kerwin Matthews' chest hair too. He's like.
Well, that's where you see some of the seams in stop motion in the Harryhausen technique, is whenever there's like fur or hair. It's like it gets an animated like that. So yeah, you if he was stop motion animating Sinbad's chest hair, yeah. The wizard school of acting, where it's like, this is where you go if you have to play like an evil wizard in a movie. This is how you do it. The Sakura has restored her to full size, and so now we can have a little bit of action adventure where Sinbad sword fights with a skeleton. Really, again, like you were saying, like being sort of in awe of and kind of wondering the ins and outs of. Look, there he is. The ins and outs of like how the real stuff's matched up with the stop motion, but it's like that sword fight. It's like he's fully interacting with you know, like the swords are hitting each other and stuff. And
it's like how the heck this is. I think this is my favorite stop motion scene in the movie.
Yeah, anything that's like remotely human is like a little more difficult, and that skeleton is. So then that shot, it was like, in the foreground is the stop motion skeleton, and then in the background is like footage of Sinbad. So it's like, was the skeleton like filmed against a black background, and then they composite in, you know?
Oh yeah,
in this, or was he frame by frame stop motion animating the skeleton while he has a like almost like a stop motion of the film playing? So it's like, okay, advance the frame on the film, and now I'm going to move the skeleton, and then advance the frame on the film of, you know, the background plate of Sinbad fighting. You know, is he doing it like that? That would be one way that you could get like sort of instant feedback in sort of like lining those things up. But I don't know, like the way that skeleton's standing and stuff, it does look to me like it's like a compositing thing where the skeleton is like being animated in front of like a blue screen
Yeah.
or black or something, and then they're printing the image on, which would probably explain some of the soft focus if they're like kind of like printing.
Because Sinbad does look like a little soft focus there.
Yeah, and then the skeleton's crystal clear. Like, this is so much fun. It's so great. It's rough around the edges, which is part of the charm. But then, like, when he gets to Clash of the Titans, it's like the lighting and like the matching and stuff is just it's
Perfect.
Yeah, and then they break like a skeleton. Yeah, like this makes me want to make a movie.
I know.
You know?
And the shape of his like door, I like that key.
Yeah, great keyhole shaped door. Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia swinging across. Yeah. So how are we gonna get across?
Yes. It's gonna like it's
For
gonna
luck. Sinbad doesn't have like a grappling hook rope with him. This is like they have to waste a wish on like a rope, and it's like one of those magic ropes that you just sort of throw in the air and then it hangs. Now when that genie first shows up, like he's a little bit scarier because he shows up and he's like this little kid, but then he like talks in this like processed like echoey voice. But then it seems like they kind of dropped that after his first appearance.
Changes up, and by the end he's like, "I'm your cabin boy."
Yeah, that I think it's like, you know, for like the last, it's like Aladdin or whatever. Like for the last wish, they wish to set him free or whatever, or maybe just like by throwing
the lamp away,
into the
Here
lava,
we go.
that kind of sets him free. Yeah, it's so, like you said, it's 1-to-1. Like the only thing that would make it more 1-to-1 is if there were like skeletons behind them.
Oh my god!
And then skeletons in front, and they're like, you know, throwing rocks at each other.
But doesn't that like trigger?
It did. No, that was my exact thought. Like when I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is Star Wars. This is where George Lucas got that like swinging across the thing. But then like I thought about it a little more, and then I was like, well, you know, there was like a, you know, like 1001 Nights movie that like predates this, and there were all those Douglas Fairbanks Jr. adventure movies, the ones where he's swinging across as Robin Hood, or, you know, swinging across, you know, as this guy or that guy. So it's like, oh, you know, like I felt kind of like oh, am I being naive? But it's like it is. You're right. It's like so 1-to-1 that it's like, yes, I'm sure Lucas was referencing those other things and was aware of those other things. But then this is like the real like direct, like this was like what he had just watched, you know, the
night before.
Yeah.
Even like the edit of it, like the amount it stays on the shot and cuts away. Oh, the more video gaming here.
Yeah, yeah. This is like I could totally see this in you know, one of those like puzzle, like a King's Quest game, or you know, that's how you get past the dragon. You just got to tighten up his chain.
It shows like the mouse click onto like the wheel, and it's like
yeah, or like a Super NES Zelda kind of thing. You know?
Yeah.
Just the way there's kind of like a little bit of a black line around them. That's definitely like they're filmed in front of like a black backdrop, you know, and then they composite that over, getting like as much mileage as you can out of these effects, where it's like they find a bunch of different uses for the dragon, you know, and they find a bunch of different uses for the Cyclops.
Yeah, we were saying like is it like multiple?
Yeah, it's just a different Cyclops. It's got to be the same one. That's just not very satisfying. You know, it's like
I'm glad he's
really
back.
looked at. He was like in like a dormant stage where he kind of like invigorates himself.
I'm glad he's alright.
Yeah, it's a fight to the finish here. Yeah, and like some great like wrestling moves. Because again, like you know, Ray Harryhausen's like got his TV on in the background. There's like some Bruno Sammartino wrestling going.
Sleeper hold. The Cyclops.
Some illegal moves. The ref's got his back turned.
The Cyclops puts his hooves up on the ropes for leverage. That he's a heel.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's the heel here. I guess the Cyclops is the heel. Sinbad did sick the dragon on the Cyclops, so yeah, I guess the Cyclops is the heel.
He went for the jugular on. That thing looks dead.
That was how this predates. I think this might predate both Godzillas, but it definitely predates Godzilla 2. But in Godzilla 2, I think it's called like Godzilla Returns or something. Godzilla Raids Again, or Godzilla's Revenge, or whatever. But Godzilla fights Anguirus, and it is a pretty great battle that goes on and on. But Godzilla defeats Anguirus by like just chewing on his neck, just chewing and chewing and chewing. and then Anguirus like dies, and then Godzilla just like just like torches his corpse. So it's like, you're not coming back. That was another thing in Godzilla 2. They're kind of like, oh, I guess this is a different Godzilla. I thought we killed Godzilla in the last one, but I guess this is a different Godzilla. So it's like, maybe this is a different Cyclops.
I love the idea of him torching the.
Yeah, it's like it's like
awesome.
I piss on your grave or whatever. Like, it's so spiteful. It's like, okay, he's dead. You got him, Anguirus. He's out of it. You killed him, but that's not enough for Godzilla. He's like, yeah.
In MacGruber, he like
these death scenes for the monsters. It's like, man, that poor dragon, man. That dragon helped Sinbad out of a jam, and he just shoots him with a giant crossbow.
Could be a Crate Dragon from Mandalorian action going on here.
Ray Harryhausen's, J.R.R. Tolkien's, The Hobbit, or somebody out there who's like a film student or whatever, like amateur filmmaker, make a stop motion effect, Ray Harryhausen style Lord of the Rings. Even if maybe just like take a scene or take a couple key scenes. Like, I want to see that. Yeah, what a great, like, nice self-contained little adventure.
I love this.
They don't get any better than this. Like the Sinbad like the Sinbad movies, the monsters get like more more defined and like more like he just Harryhausen's skills increase, but it's like this like pound for pound, this is like
this is the second time I've watched this week.
Okay, like as much like when we were talking about Clash of the Titans, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know which one I like better, this or Clash of the Titans. Watching them back to back like this, it's a tough call, but Clash of the Titans wins because it's just like I just feel it more. That it's like the 80s. It's got that 80s gloss, which is just it works for me. And I do think, the special effects are better in Clash of the Titans. But then, more importantly, the larger movie is better. Like, the movie, like, works as a whole.
Yeah.
There's, like, a greater subtlety. The characters, like, really come to life. The characters are, like... I mean, I can't say anything bad about this, but the characters... They're, like, the characters are a little more stiff, and the effects are a little more stiff, and like, they don't come together as a whole as well as Clash of the Titans. I mean, again, it's beautiful, it's great, it's awesome, but, like, Clash of the Titans is just, like, a cut above.
I'm so glad that I got to watch Clash of the Titans. Mm-hmm. That was amazing. Like, I've seen this one much more than Clash. That was exciting to watch Clash.
Yeah, that's interesting because for me it was like the opposite. Like, I'd watched Clash of the Titans a million times, and then kind of discovered this like later in life, and like really fell in love with it. And again, it is like just two different flavors of
whatever you're vibing on.
Yeah, exactly. And like, sometimes I am in the mood I'm in the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad mood, and sometimes I'm in a Clash of the Titans mood. Yeah.
No, this is great.
Yeah, it just
We'll have to check the Golden Voyage.
The Golden Voyage and Sinbad in the Eye of the Tiger, and of course Jason and the Argonauts. But yeah, I think like, man, pound for pound, you got like in Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, you got like never a dull moment. Like, you've got these great monsters, and then even when it's like, and they don't make you wait a really long time for the monster scenes, but then the non-monster scenes are pretty interesting too.
Yeah, there's not, like you said, not a dull moment.
Watching like a lot of Godzilla movies and stuff, like Godzilla does have that. Godzilla does have like these, they're throughout the series, some more so than others, but generally in the Godzilla movies, I am like fast forwarding and like waiting for like the monster stuff to show up, and there's not as much, and it's not spread out evenly the way it is in this. Like, in this, there's a lot of monster stuff in the beginning, there's a lot of monster stuff in the middle, and then you get a ton of monster stuff at the end. But it's all where, like a Godzilla movie, sometimes you get like no monster stuff in the beginning, and then like maybe a tiny bit in the middle, and then you get like a nice chunk at the end. But this is like, I'm enjoying this journey. I mean, this could become the Harryhausen cast. Like we could just turn it into like the Ray Harryhausen show. But there's other stuff we're gonna explore. But man,
we'll have to do a King Kong episode.
Yeah, King Kong, the big one.
We can do the classic and the 70s
Peter
one.
Jackson one. Oh, the 70s one. Yeah, I was thinking about the 70s one because like when I was a kid, to me, like the '70s one was King Kong.
That was the one. That was the first one I saw. Too.
Yeah, like I didn't like. It's like, oh yeah, King Kong. Whenever somebody would talk about King Kong, oh yeah, King Kong. It's that one. You know?
Yeah.
And like like I have a million comics where like you open it up and there's this full page ad for it, and it's like King Kong, and he's on top of the World Trade Center. He's like straddled. He's got one leg on one tower and one leg on the other, and he's, you know.
I saw that one, and then King Kong Lives, like the other, like modern one.
Mm-hmm.
Those two are like my King Kong movies, and I saw then the original like later, like in like middle school.
and I really like when I saw the original, then I like really fell in love. Like the original's just so much fun, and again, it's like an archetype of like so many different movies where like, because it was, you know, in my head was always just like, okay, yeah, King Kong, he climbs up the tall building and then the planes shoot him down, but it's like that whole like build up, you know, on the island, and then there's dinosaurs and giant ants and just like all kinds of crazy stuff.
I'd be up for a rewatch too of the Peter Jackson one.
Yeah, Peter Jackson. That's where I thought you were going, was with the Peter Jackson one. But yeah, like just do a whole like King Kong Palooza. When I was a kid, like at the Boardwalk, there was like, I don't know, I think it might have been like in one of the arcades, but there was like a giant King Kong hand. It was from like the 70s movie, and it was like the Dino De Laurentiis, and it was a giant King Kong hand, and in the background was like a big giant photo of like Kong's face, and so you could like sit in King Kong's hand and have like, you know, King Kong's like, you know, gonna eat you or whatever. That is amazing.
Like
a photo op.
I thought you were gonna mention there on the Boardwalk, might be the Jersey Shore. There was like this arcade called Congo Falls, and it has like it looks like TC's helicopter from Magnum PI, like a real like just helicopter with like a gorilla like flying it.
Okay, well there was, I don't know if this is the same thing, but like when I would go to like Wildwood as a kid, on the drive there, it's like you got the Boardwalk as your destination. That's where you're trying to get to. But on like the road, like just a little bit outside of town, just like before you get into Wildwood, almost like as a way to like divert tourists away, to kind of like divert a couple bucks. There was like this little like area, I don't know if it was like somebody's like go-kart thing or whatever, but they had like this like giant King Kong jungle gym or statue. It was like this giant King Kong you could climb inside, and then I guess they had like a couple other rides, but it was kind of like before you get to the Boardwalk, to like maybe fool somebody to think, oh, is that the Boardwalk? Oh, I see rides there, let's get on it. It doesn't exist anymore, but it's like, I wish I would have like taken pictures of it, or I wish I would have gone. I never went to it, because like when I was a kid, you know, I'd say to my parents like, oh, let's go there. Like, no, that's nothing. Like, we're going to the Boardwalk. Forget about that. So we never did. But it's like, man, I would have liked to know, and maybe I would have gone and like regretted it. But it's like, yeah, it was this like giant King Kong that you would see it on your way.
The people like are waiting for you at the Boardwalk. They're like, "Where's Tom?" He diverted and went to the giant King Kong statue.
There's, you know, King Kong, like, I mean, King Kong, he's like the granddaddy, and everybody, you know, like sort of like venerates the movie King Kong and thinks it's so great. But like, I like all the King Kong ripoffs better. like with Godzilla, like I like Godzilla so much more than I like King Kong. Again, love it all. I do love King Kong, but I like Godzilla so much more. But like when Honda made King Kong versus Godzilla, he was like so in awe of King Kong. Like he loved that movie. You know, he's doing Godzilla almost like as a tribute to it. Like you know, he was just so in love, and he was so excited to be making a King Kong movie, and he was so in that. But like, it's kind of like, wait a second, like you're bending over backwards, like about how much you love King Kong, but you made Godzilla, who's so much cooler. Like, but he doesn't realize that he made something even cooler than King Kong, because
grass is always
green, and you can't be like a fan of your own stuff the way you're a fan of like somebody else's stuff. But it's like no, Godzilla is just so much cooler than King Kong, and then like Harryhausen, it's like, you know, he was so in awe of King Kong, but I would watch like a Harryhausen movie like over King Kong. Again, like I don't want to sell King Kong short, because King Kong's great. Like,
yeah, we love it all.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson, I think he might have like be in possession of like whatever is remaining of the King Kong model.
Oh, nice.
So I think he owns like just like the frame or just like pieces of the original thing.
I think I only watched like the Peter Jackson King Kong twice, and I remember being disappointed in it because I was just like so in love with the Lord of the Rings movies, and I was like kind of saw it in the theater, and then was like when it came out on DVD, it was like yeah, I'll check that out again. But
we'll have to do King Kong Palooza.
Yeah, like I feel like if I watch it again, maybe I'll have like a more charitable view of it, because I was disappointed because it was like you're watching it like back to back with like the Lord of the Rings series, and it's like, oh, this isn't as cool. Yeah, Peter Jackson King Kong felt very like video gamey, but in a bad way. Like I know we've been comparing Seventh Voyage of Sinbad to a video game, but like it's like favorable, but this was like bad. Like that was like it was just like you're just watching like endless video game footage of like somebody like trying to outrun Kong as the floor is disappearing behind. It was like a Sonic the Hedgehog level or something.
Yeah, like the Jack Black like gets a bunch of rings. It's like
yeah, it like didn't work for me. But maybe if I watch it now without all those expectations, I'll be like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, I'm up for any Konging or Godzilla.
Yeah. You've been watching the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad episode of Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli. You can support my Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search Tom Scioli. And you can follow me on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
You can follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at Total Recall Show and on Instagram at Total_Recall_show.